I met him at a party in Shaughnessy. I can't remember now who the people were, but they were all our age. We were like 14, 15, 16, and my cousin Virginia was there, so it probably was friends of theirs. And Lance knew a lot of the people, and that's when I met him. And then we got to dancing, and then we never wanted to let go. It was one of those things where we thought it was just love at first sight. But because, you know, I was tall for my age, and he was tall, and we just clicked. God knows that we were just teenagers. I can't remember who the people were. But, you know, that's a long way back in the history book. And
did you keep going out, or did you?
After a while, yeah. We kind of kept in touch by phone, and but I lived in Burnaby, and he lived in Kitsilano, or Shaughnessy, I think Kitsilano. But eventually we did, and then of course we used to go to the band things, and then Pat Clayton was married to Billy Clayton, who was that played with Lance. So we were very close, which we still are. And then we just started, you know, dating, like what dating was. You know, maybe a hot dog and a movie or whatever. And it grew, and it grew as we loved each other very, very much, very much. But anyway, that's, as they say, that's another chapter.
But
well, we got married when we were still pretty young. I was in Victoria on a picture, and he was stationed there at Patricia Bay. And yeah, that's just when we got married. He I don't know, I guess both of us after work. My father was there from Vancouver in a hotel working as a stagehand on the picture. And so we said, well, Lance said, well, you know, we're just going to get married. So I said, well, my father's here, we'll tell my father. So we went over, I don't know, sometime maybe 6 o'clock or whatever, 7 or 8, and asked the desk clerk to notify my father. And we sat there and we waited quite a while. And next thing you know, my father came down and he looked at both of us like he couldn't believe his eyes. And I said, Daddy, this is Lance and everything, and we want to get married, but we didn't want to get married. Well, he went into a tirade you wouldn't believe, because he thought it was his wake-up call at 6 o'clock to go to work. And he had probably just dozed off, and then they called, and he got up and threw himself together thinking he was going to work, and here's this dumb daughter with this dumb friend saying we're going to go to work. Well, boy, I felt like the village idiot, and he was furious. He didn't want to hear any more about it, because all he wanted to do was go upstairs and get back to bed. That's just one episode with my father going up the wall. So anyway, that was a tough start because Lance was so embarrassed. But anyway, Lance's very dear friend Pete Hardy was a member of the band, and they were in the Air Force band. Fought the war with his clarinet, as he used to say.
Was that Dominic Lastoria?
No,
and that was in Victoria, that Pat Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just outside of Victoria. So, his friend was in the same thing, and so Norm stood up for us, and another friend of mine from back east, can't remember her name either, stood up for us, and we went to this little place, and that's the way we got married. Very unglamorous.
I gotta change things.
He was just, that's the way he was. He was a lady killer.
But he always said, Doris is my best friend.
Isn't it funny that he would use that term? Well, I guess in a way, as opposed to some of the very glamorous and sexy and beautiful girls that he loved, I would be in a different category, you know, because I wasn't pretty and I wasn't sexy. I was just, you know, but I mean, I was more of a, I can see where he would interpret that he kind of thought of me as more of a steadfast person, a friend, you know, that he could go to and trust or something like that, which is still a very, very flattering category. I mean, I'm very plastic, glad to hear it. But, you know, I guess you just don't, maybe marriages are not meant for best friend.
No, he said you were very glamorous. He said he said you were the most fun. He said you're staying up all night, you're having fun, and you were just the most fun person.
When did he tell you all this, dear?
Whenever I would ask.
I mean, not since he married your mother.
Oh, yeah.
Before after that, you could talk to him about it. You know? Well, that's nice to hear. She must have known. I mean, she must have. Well, there's no reason why she should tell you.
Well, she didn't tell me.
They're very ironic because he never really hid anything. He came home one day and he's telling me all about her. She's saying that, boy, and she's this and she's that, and she's. I mean, he was sensitive in some ways, but very insensitive in an emotional involvement. And I would just say, "Oh, really? Is she very talented?" "Oh, yeah," he said. She said, "He really was really overcome with her." I mean, you can't help that. He really just fell in love with her, and he loved her for a long time, dear. So that's all right. But he didn't know how that hurt. He didn't. He used to talk about other women like you talk about one of the guys.
Well, I don't think he was faithful to her either.
No, he wouldn't be. It was impossible. That man, he just had his own sense that I had to do it. I just couldn't take this. It was one woman after another. I mean, it was awful. So I thought, I cannot live in this town. That was when I left town. I said, I cannot be here. We had the nucleus of our own friends and family, and I took advantage of the fact that I had very dear friends in California, and I just made plans to get out of town and send for Tommy later and just get established somewhere else and then send for my little boy and live my life away from Lance and the whole thing. I mean, it's a drastic change, and it was embarrassing. But I don't know how it gave me the strength to do that at the time. But I just thought, I'm going to do it. And then I contacted my friends in California, and they just said, come ahead. But then, nothing is easy, because that's when it took so long for me to get Tommy down there. And you can't blame him for thinking that he had been abandoned. I had him stay with a very, very close, well, a really kind of a relative in-law, my sister-in-law's sister and her husband, a beautiful, good Christian family. And they were going to look after him temporarily. Well, then with the, not even with the passport like it is today, it's tough enough. But you have to, get a sponsor to, to be responsible if you can't support him. And you had to do the papers and go here and go there. And it went into weeks and it went into months. And finally, it was, how did this work? It was Bing Crosby that sponsored Tom. And I was in there, and I had met before, just from traveling back and forth, had met all the Crosbys through mutual friends. But while we were still in Vancouver, Lance and I were separated at that point. But I'm still in the apartment on Granville Street, Granville and 4th. It isn't there anymore. And so knowing the Crosbys and the thing, the phone rings, and Mom, I was about to go to see something, and Mom was there to look after Tommy. I didn't even have a bed for him. But I answered the phone, and he said, Doris? And I said, it's Bing Crosby. He said, oh, hi, what are you doing? Are you in town? He said, yeah, I'm going to do a concert at the I think it was the Orpheum. And that's what Lance and his band are playing. And Bing and Ray Milland, who was an actor who had just won the Academy Award for Lost Weekend. It was a big picture. It was like just one of the biggest stars. So the two of them. So I said, oh, really? And he said, and that was going to be, I guess that was going to be tomorrow. I said, okay. He said, so well, how will we meet? And I said, well, where are you staying? He said, staying at the Vancouver Hotel. I said, okay, well, okay, then I'll just, then I'll meet you at the hotel. So I thought, vengeance is mine. There couldn't have been anybody in the world that Lance adored more than Bing Crosby. And I did too. But I thought, what the face would do when he sees little old me with his idol. And it was almost, well, it was like a vengeance. Like I'm not even going to introduce him. Ooh, which is so stupid. So that's what we did. So we went in, and Bing and Ray have a dressing room off stage, and the band is all lined up. And he said, so Bing, I said, well, I better go and sit out in front. So he said, which one is he?
Oh.
I said, he's the tall, good-looking blonde in the front. They said, his lead sax. He said, and Bing could tell that I still cared. I mean, it was well weird. So when time came or something, and Bing was at the theater was packed, and so I understand that when he came out, he passed through the band, and they said, "Hiya, Lance." And he threw him that bone. And I thought, because I had said to him, just acknowledge him a little. It would mean so much to him. So he said, okay. And I said, well, which one is he? So that was really cute of him, because like he'd known him all his life. I'm surprised that Lance didn't tell you that story, because that was really something to him. So anyway, that's what we did. Then we got into the thing about Tom. What was the problem with Tommy? So I just said, he said, just mention my name. He said, I'll sponsor him. I said, oh, I wouldn't want to bother you with that. And that was the power that you need. You need somebody that is really, wealthy enough to maintain the look after a child for God knows, how long. So I said, oh, God, would you do that? He said, don't give it a thought. That's how I got the wheels turning. As I mentioned, Bing Crosby, and he was a very big star at the time. And that security was enough for them to know that he would, and that's what we did. So I had, everything was settled here, and then he came down, and a friend of mine, by that time I had been in California forever, and then I was in Las Vegas. I got a friend that drove me to the airport, and by that time he was maybe 8, 9, 10?
6, I think.
I don't know how long. I've got a terrible memory. Anyway, that's when we settled down, and that's when, over a period of time, I married Paul Campbell, who was a very nice guy. He was too. They're very nice, both of them. And so Tommy pretty well finished his growing up there, went to school, got a job, worked, and that's about it. I don't know. Then he had to come back for something. My mom came down and got him. And he came back, and we went through the whole thing again. Something else, though. I forget what it was. And then he moved to California. And that was through the hippie era.
Yeah.
And then he was with all these other kids. Well, they're all hippies. He was hippie.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we called them. Yeah. And just go all through that whole psychedelic thing. And I think all that time he must have been insecure. And I really do think he did think that his father abandoned him, which was not fair.
Well, he did.
But I think that he felt that I had too. But at that point, you're too young to understand that I kept on trying and doing everything I could, and still having to make myself a living. And so we've had a kind of a sad off and on background. Well, that was just a matter of meeting, just like you do with anybody else, that you meet people and you like them and they like you. Mm-hmm. And it's just something that grows very simply. We were working on a picture called Mickey Rooney and Marilyn and Pat O'Brien and Tay Garnett was my friend, and he was the director. So I had a little thing in it. But we used to spend a lot of time in between, She was very young and very pretty at the time. It was a roller skating picture. They used to have the thing banked, and they would skate around. The rope, I can't think of the name of it. It's in the book.
Well, tell me when you remember.
And we just became very friendly.
You and Marilyn.
And then
you and Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, we just became friendly, and I don't know. Then we just saw each other and get together in a couple of other pictures, and then I don't know what to say about her, except that she was a very lovely person. Quite introverted, quite shy. And yeah, just a precious, lovely girl.
How long did you have a room together?
How long?
Mm-hmm. How long did you have a room with her?
I'm sorry, I'm having you repeat everything. We were not long, well, maybe a couple of months. Just a thing, because she was either getting married to, I can't remember now. I can't remember whether she was married to Joe or not, or who she's. I really don't. It might come to me another time, but I can't remember. I can't remember much of what we really did.
What did you do for the picture?
In the picture?
Yeah.
Oh, just the usual stuff. Maybe a couple of lines here or there. Mm-hmm. Nothing very excited. I've done an awful lot of it, but nothing significant, obviously. I'm not a star.
Did you do extra work?
I have done. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've done a lot of extra work. At one point, that it was in L.A., at one point, that was all I was doing. I was sharing an apartment with June Cooper, who was married to Jackie Cooper, which divorced. And my other friend, Nora Flynn, had been married to Errol Flynn, and they were no longer married. So there was Nora and Gwen. Nora and Gwen and June. Gwen was married to, Gwen was married to Donald O'Connor. So they had all been married to people in the business, and none of them worked. So they were all, and June, we were like a little clique. We would just go to the Cock and Bull, and everybody knew us, and we knew everybody else. And a lot of people in the industry went there because no one was really impressed. You know, they were left alone. We were all just knew each other. So that was a favorite hangout. I've been here, I think, 20 years.
More.
I've been right here in this apartment for 20 years. I stayed with my mom in Tawasin, and then this became available. I think it's 20 years. Yeah. Now, Lance has been coming here. You know, just like come and sit down, and he has a cup of coffee, or he had a drink of scotch, and just would talk. And it was like nothing. We talked about the current things. You know, we didn't seem to make any reference to all those years. It was just like two friends that hadn't seen each other for a while, and talk about mutual friends, or, you know, but nothing really very personal. But then I thought, it's not right either, because Ginger doesn't know these things, and there again, although there was nothing to it but best friends, it still wasn't right for him as a married man to be coming here. You know, see, he never, one after another, he never thought that. And then I used to feel for Ginger. I thought, gee, if Ginger ever finds out, it's really going to be, a mess. And maybe she did. But by that time, she probably knew he did a lot of visiting anyway. He was a great visitor. He used to come with that little... It was very nice of him to think of it, and he'd come with a scotch, but he'd bring the smallest Mickey. Your father had very deep pockets. I don't remember him ever giving me any money. I mean, He just was not. He just never did anything. I mean, when I say that I would share the dinner at Love's, that means he's not going to spring for a dinner from me. Not that, because, well, I understand it, because we didn't have any money. I mean, he was, I guess, made good money for a musician in those days, but we just didn't have anything. I mean, we never bought any clothes, and we just lived very frugally. But it's not as though he would say, you know, here's what I made tonight, or here's part of it. It never. Whatever I had to have, I had to ask him for. He was that he was. He wasn't a big spender. So I didn't go with you after that.
No, I was there once when you were there, and I remember you said, "This is not Lance Harris."
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Mm. Oh yes, I think. Well, I guess I made that second visit. Mm-hmm. Because that first one, I know, you know, I would remember if you were there.
Mm-hmm. But then you talked to him on the phone. You talked to him on the phone. He loved it.
Yeah.
So.
There's so much that you want to put away, and some precious things that you want to save. But when you get very old, you get confused, and your memory is not as sharp. And I just like to remember the wonderful times that we did have. And it really broke my heart to see him like that, as I always want to remember him tall and handsome and, yeah, you know, in good spirit. That was a terrible shock. And how he would be... Dee Dee just told me that Bill Hill would be 90, mm-hmm. And I said, well, me too. And Lance then would be more than 90.
Now, yes,
he would be 93 or 94. So he lived a good life.